Welcome to Homeschool Life. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Adriana.
Today we're going to talk about homeschooling is freedom. And what we mean by that is that there's a lot of talk about, oh, well, my homeschooling experience has been about adjusted education and going to college. Uh, as some people might relay their experience being homeschooled, and other people might relay their experience of homeschooling their children. Oh well, we found curriculums and blah 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 and did all this extra work and it was really great. But what we're going to address is something different. Is the ramifications of homeschooling on society and how it affects our society in general.
Right.
And it's not just about like the benefits of homeschooling. We'll get to that in another podcast. But what we want to talk about is how it affects us in aggregate as a population.
Yeah, touching on the political and
Absolutely.
effects. Something that a lot of people are not very knowledgeable,
Right.
right? And so this is why we're discussing that because there's a lot of information on the benefits of homeschooling, but we want to address the what some might consider the controversial aspect because it's a hot topic and not many people are aware of it, or they're starting to see.
Right.
And a lot of individuals that are in the media and so on, maybe on Twitter, saying things that really affect us as a society.
Well, we're going our society because of the pandemic, and it's August right now. So because of the pandemic, a lot of eyes have been open about the property taxes, homeschooling and vouchers, and all these things surrounded by having to isolate ourselves and still educate our children.
So what people don't realize is that these things have been going on for a long time. They didn't just surface right now. What really happened is they they got revealed when infrastructures get closed down or a change is happening to certain infrastructures. You reveal the weak points. The weak points get revealed, and the dependence that society has on the society on those infrastructures get revealed as well. So
Right. And we recognize these things because we're trained as engineers, and so we can really analyze how things break down when situations change. We're used to analyzing this type of data.
exactly. So and because we've homeschooled for a very long time, and we've all these things that we're going to discuss are things that we have discussed in the past. Okay, but we haven't really shared them with a big audience before. So let's 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 first start with um, answering the question: what's wrong with what we have today? Okay.
You mean pre pandemic
No.
or what we're experiencing now?
Well, I mean, we just the schools shut down. Okay, not too long ago. In other words, they're not in operation. And so we are seeing, and not even before that, the product, right? The quality of our society is a product of our school system.
Right.
Okay, because everybody goes through that particular, for the most part, goes through that school system. And when you analyze the quality of society, are we happy with what we see with the groups of people that are doing all kinds of things, their views, their thoughts?
Well, it's like this pandemic and the shutting of the school system has created this big focal lens on quality of education, and it all happened when the kids started coming home, and the parents recognizing what was going on with their kids.
Yes, that, and also we see, because of the lockdown, we see political agendas
Yes.
that are visible now, and then and that's society right there. How do we get to that point where society is involved in these political agendas, right?
Some people want the schools to reopen.
Right.
Some people want the schools to reopen, but in the old fashion, where there's no social distance. Some people
don't want anything to do with it.
don't have anything to do with it, and there says we're going to homeschool, period, or we're going to go to private school, or even the private school has issues with social distancing measures that are being put in place. So there people are going, we're going to homeschool, period, and those numbers are through the roof.
Right. So they're seeing some more control manipulation from a different aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing some restrictions, but what we're trying to tell you is there has been things that have been visible as a shield or a mask,
Right.
but it's actually manipulation and control over our ability to have our own thoughts, to be able to analyze critically things that you know, and be able to say we don't want this anymore. We don't want this product. So we don't people don't have that don't feel like they have the freedom to complain because they haven't been able to see that.
Well, one of the common complaints even before the pandemic of homeschoolers is I pay property taxes. I pay all this and I already pay for the schools. And I have to out of my own pocket pay for schools again. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
double dipping. People also, when they sent their kids to private schools, they had the same complaint that I'm basically they're double dipping me. I'm paying it. My property is being mortgaged for what they call education dollars. It's really your own money, right? That we're having to pay for education. Now, with the schools closing, a lot of people are saying, hey, the schools have been closed. Where's our refund on our property taxes?
Exactly.
And so people are starting to question that. And there's a development that I'll get to in a jiffy about where's that's leading. But go ahead.
So they're used to receiving a service
right.
that they've already paid for, and they're saying, well, we're not getting the service anymore. So what are we going to do with that money that already paid for? But they're not seeing the even bigger picture, because those same people that argue that point are actually saying, well, we don't want to be forced to homeschool, right? And my thing is, hang on a second, you don't want to be forced to homeschool? How about us homeschoolers? We are forced to give up our money to help you, and we don't want that service to begin with.
We've been forced this whole time.
We've
been
forced
for,
this whole time,
and
so what we're telling you is, it's better. You're better off by having your money back, and you decide how you want to use that. But it's almost like they've gotten used to even usurping the rest of us. Besides, and they don't really realize that they've been usurping us to help their want of having their kids in the school.
Right. No one is going to force them to homeschool. No. They have choices. They can homeschool. They can go to private school. Blah blah blah.
Right.
And the thing is like people will say, well, what are we going to do with these education dollars? It's like education dollars is this standalone entity that has no connection to us.
Yes, my biggest problem is these people talk out of pure ignorance. Okay, and it's ignorance because they don't know the benefits of homeschooling. The thing is they're arguing from a point where they don't even realize how being able to homeschool, you actually have much more freedom than ever, and it's not really that difficult. And the fact that they are in a panic and don't know where to go, it kind of reinforces the thing that that's because they are a product of the system that have made them panicky at the thought of being in control over something. Well, it's like they're used to being provided with services that is not created by themselves. It's like they're used to. See, they've been indoctrinated already into the system to think that they need someone else to provide those services.
Right. It's just like if if the government somehow was the entity that taught children how to walk, and they did it for so long, people would say, "Who's going to teach my child to walk?"
Exactly. So we've become kind of incompetent over the years,
Yeah.
and that's a very sad reality.
And then people come to me with an argument saying, "Well, what about those single mothers who can't they have to make a living and they can't homeschool their children?" And I think, okay, I understand your point, but let me ask you this point first: how how did they get to that point in the first place?
Correct.
Okay, but that sounds kind of mean. But let me ask you this: is um how is I forgot the point I was going to make.
Well, let me add. Maybe that this will bring that back. But I was gonna say that if you have to make the decision of becoming a single, okay, and when you become that, you basically even to raise your kid, you have to like step it up and now fulfill roles of father and mother to that child.
Mhm.
So you have to step it up. So when it comes to education, you have to. Now, some people, very few people, are capable of pulling that off.
Mhm.
But if you're not, then that means that you need a partner. Okay, your family is in need of that. That's what that reveals to you. And I've been married all this time, and I even realized that I couldn't do this by myself, and that's not the reason why I'm married to my husband. But I value what he provides.
Mhm.
Okay, I am aware of it, and I'm thankful that he's able to support me in this
When
way.
you say he, you mean me, right? Okay.
Yes.
No, I remember the point I was going to make
Good.
is uh, the there are charities. Okay, there are services that people provide. Some people say, well, uh, I I want I don't mind my money going to education. And I said, great. There's lots of people who have the charitable mindset that you do.
Yep.
You know, if you feel like there's a need in society, you can give to charities. And even in the past, there was charitable schools that people would give to, and who would do those things. And the thing is what we're saying is we don't need the state to do it for us. We don't
Right.
need the state to take money from us uh, to distribute. Of course, they're going to take their operational cost, right? So it's not going to be very efficient. So
Correct.
if you as a private individual want to give charity to a like a religious school or to even a secular school that does there's a 501c3, you can do that, right? And those entities will increase as there's the power vacuum of the state goes away.
Mm-hmm. So the thing is that you make good points, and I wanted to bring up the fact that because we've been so dependent on these services, we've actually isolated ourselves because we've been provided something all this time that made us not to worry or have concerns to be more connected with our community
Mhm.
because we didn't have to. We have a service provided for us, and there's no need for us to connect with our community. So what homeschooling does is it makes you connect with your community,
Right.
and if you and that makes you more in tune with what they provide for free already.
Mhm.
Okay, and also the churches. Well, you come in more in tune if you're a religious person. You'll see that churches also provide a lot of support, and you are also in tune with the community with other homeschooling families, and you'll see that you get a lot of support from them as well.
Sure.
So that's the thing, that homeschooling gives
and
you lots
and
of freedom.
and so we kind of touched on how once the state we defang the state from educating our children because other things will take its place.
Right. Let me go ahead and kind of define the state a little bit more. So we're tied to this bureaucracy, okay, where the requirements, what I'm talking about the school system specifically, the requirements are dictated by the state. Okay, we have curriculum dictated by the state. That means inform have this information that these people think that we all need to know.
Hmm.
Okay. Then you have conditioning
Yes.
and you have grooming going on.
Yes.
in the schools. We have the role of teachers is also dictated by the state.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then you have teachers unions.
You have the teachers unions, which is another part of controlling from the state as well, because what that does is you're not letting good teachers do what they do best,
Right.
and you can't fire bad teachers. So you have a system that is corrupt in another way.
And there's plenty of evidence showing how corrupt teachers unions are.
right,
Just look it up online, it's there.
and you have, of course, absent-minded parents who actually enable this. On generation after generation, going through the same cycle of indoctrination. And I mean, absent-minded parents, yes, you're absent-minded because both of you are working, and that's your whole focus, is to provide resources for your families. You haven't been in tune with the politics. Okay, you haven't been in tune with the economics as much as you should have, and the impacts on society.
Yeah, and the thing it's like some families are like in New Jersey, their property taxes can be $8,000 a year.
Let's go back to that because
Okay.
we're gonna hone in on the property taxes
Sure.
in a little bit. So here in the school systems we have today, students are only required to pass the tests that are provided by the state. So everything is controlled and by the state.
And when we say state, we're using as a broad general term, not the particular state that you reside in, or not the federal government.
It's the entity in control of it.
Yes, it is the governmental controls.
Yes. And so as a society, we are not learning to be independent or to have mastery where we can actually teach others. This is why we have so many parents panicking. How am I going to?
So basically, what you're saying is they're only given enough information to pass the test, but they're not trained to teach.
So us homeschoolers, veteran homeschoolers who are doing it the right way, there's some veteran homeschoolers doing it in a weird way, but anyway, what I'm saying is we were already aware of that. Okay, that there's not really much learning going in the school system. No, there really isn't, because real learning means you have mastery over things that you can actually teach your children. If you don't
those children can teach their children.
Exactly. It's things you pass down, and if we're not there, what does that tell you of the school system?
And a very common complaint of parents now who are gazing into the abyss of possibilities of homeschooling is like, I don't remember algebra.
So yeah, so the test taking is just compliance of their indoctrination process.
And these people who are saying that, they got straight A's in algebra in school, but they're not able to teach it.
Exactly. And they think and some of them even think they can. But then I start to test it and question it, and they really can't. It's like it's been fooled all this time that they actually know something and they don't really know it. So anyway, so that's what you have with that system in place right now. So what you can get with homeschooling when you make the switch is you can practice 100% peace, which is a great thing for your family.
Well, it's absolutely necessary if you're going to make a connection between you and your child in order for the child to learn.
Can you give a little summary on what peaceful parenting is for those people? What we mean by peaceful?
It is no yelling, no spanking, no use of force or coercion, humiliation, no lying to your child. It's giving the child full personhood, right? Because once you do that and you start giving respect to your child, they will reciprocate and give respect back to you.
Right. The thing is, there are negative things connected with those with those things. That's why we don't do unpeaceful parenting, because there are negative effects on children.
And it doesn't mean that there's no discipline, right? but you have to define what discipline is.
Yeah, discipline is not rules and punishment. That's not what that is.
It's not
It's
punishment
more
and
of a
authority.
guidance
It's a guidance. It's a
and
learning and a
encouragement.
teaching.
Yes.
Right.
So it's completely different, and I think we have addressed these in other podcasts, but we may put one out on what peaceful is
Right.
in the future.
Let me digress just slightly. If you like go to church every Sunday, that's a discipline. If you get up and go to the gym every other day, that's a discipline, right?
It's yeah.
It's you can even in a repetitive nature, something that you do in a repetitive nature is being disciplined to do that.
Right. So in other words, what we mean by discipline is teaching self-discipline.
Yes.
So the things that make you have good habits, things that make you a healthy person.
Right. And the thing that why does a person go to the gym? Because they know that it benefits their health and stuff like this, and they're getting something out of it. Right. And it's the question of what's in it for me.
Exactly.
Okay. And we'll get back. We've talked about that in the past, but
right. So another thing that you get with homeschooling is the passing down of values and life skills. Something that schools cannot do.
And
right?
And in fact, a lot of parents are sick and tired of these political agendas that are and in the political indoctrination that is in the school. We're not going to get into specifics about those, but there's a lot of people who are very upset with particular issues.
Well, there's so many. There's vaccinations, right? The issues about vaccinations. Some parents don't want their kids vaccinated with these.
And we're not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying that these are issues.
These are the things that parents make decisions why they want to homeschool. Another thing is, for example,
about sex education in school.
The latest thing right now was in our state we had parents petitioning against the new sex education things that they were going to put in place.
Right.
And so when they were doing that, I was thinking, guys, why are you petitioning? You already see how they push things behind your back, and here you are entrusting them still. It's like I would be like, that's a good enough reason for me to pull my kid.
Right.
And a lot of parents did, so that's another reason why they pulled their kids.
Why? We looked at the curriculum. As we're getting into specifics, but we looked at the curriculum, and they talked about.
Don't say it because some kids might be listening in with it. So
they talked about very inappropriate things.
Yeah.
For in kindergarten.
Yeah. So. No.
Yeah. Anyway. So So the thing about homeschooling is that it's no longer just about academics. It's more than that because the school systems only try to address the intellect part, the academics, the subjects. Okay, they didn't address the physical, emotional, and social aspects that are really important in the development of children. Right.
Okay, so when you homeschool, you actually it's all of the above, but done in the most efficient and loving way.
Well, let me step back 1 second about the values thing. Okay? When you homeschool, you are assured that it's your values.
Correct.
Okay? You get a chance. And in aggregate, in society, we're not consolidating a particular value for the masses. What we do have, if everyone starts homeschooling, is that each individual families, they maintain their own family's values, whatever they may be, right? So it's a decentralization of values, and actually that makes a more stable, coherent community.
So what we promote is for you to have freedom to make your own decisions, okay, and also to have complete control over it. We make you strong enough to have the skills that you need to be able to do that. Nobody's going to tell you how you should go about things. You should be confident to do it, and you should know where to get the resources. You should be self-reliant in that aspect. So, okay, there's this last thing about what you get with homeschooling is that you can actually address the stages of development properly of your kids because as a parent, you are in absolute control.
Hmm.
So you're there all the time. And so when you see things happening in the development of your child, you're right there to address them right away. Okay, are we ready to go into the economic benefits of
Uh,
homeschooling?
the economic benefits?
Yes.
You mean like different
Financial.
like your salary, like one salary versus two,
Well,
blah blah
that
blah.
so let me just start with this and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
So it is cost effective in homeschooling to homeschool because you don't need to invest in expensive curriculum.
And that's true because there's the studies that were done about the average cost of homeschooling is anywhere between $800 to $1,200 a year. Okay, and because of that, average, and the fact that we know that we can homeschool better and more efficiently, and that all the test data for homeschoolers is higher than the public school system, we're doing it way cheaper.
Exactly. And if you actually, we'll discuss the property taxes later in detail, but if you were to get that amount that they're taking away from us, that money is way more than what we actually spend to home.
Right.
So imagine what more you could do with that money, because people say we both have to work to make a living, but the thing is, you wouldn't have to if you actually had that money.
I mean, we're talking about like let's say you have a house, that property tax that month that's taken out monthly to go into the escrow account, um, that could be up to $400 a month.
Exactly.
You know, and depending on how the year.
And you don't really need that much. The thing is, we actually in one of our other podcasts we address how to teach history.
Right.
And you can literally, and actually, I don't take this like you buy a textbook and you teach from that. You actually should listen to the podcast because we tell you how exactly to do that properly. But what I'm trying to say is you can actually have one textbook and that's all you need for history.
Yeah, and actually we bought that textbook used from the library for $2.
Exactly. So really the costs are really small. You can spend more if you want to, but you don't have to. That's the point.
I mean, look at used bookstores, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have. I mean, math doesn't change. History up to a certain point. I mean, if you want to study ancient Rome, you're not going to have new information very often, right? So you can get a very good resource for $1, $2, $5,
right,
from a used bookstore.
As a parent, I mean, the thing is, what is curriculum? Curriculum is just information and data. That's all there is. And as a parent, you should know how much of that was actually of use.
That's right.
When you assess that is how much was that information and data of use to me, then you can kind of say, you know what, I know now that this was useless. I didn't need this at all.
And
okay, so therefore I shouldn't cover it that much with my kid. Okay, now if there's the other aspect where I wish I had learned more of this, then that's your cue to say, this time around with my kid, I want to make sure I cover this.
And also, just to be clear, for people who are not aware, curriculum doesn't mean you get a stack of workbooks to go through.
No.
A stack of lessons.
Anyway, if you want to know more about how we address curriculum in specific, look for that podcast that we did on history. It's going to be really good, and we're going to do more on the other subjects. But
it's podcast number 12.
Yeah, you have to start with history because that is the basis of everything, right? We have to know about our past,
right?
So that we know where we need to go. So the next thing is property taxes. I'll let you take over that.
Well, okay. The majority of it's generally true that the majority of property taxes is used to fund education, and the majority of education is funded through property tax.
Varies by state.
I was getting to that. It varies by state, and there are some differences and some variations. Some states like to take a portion of the property taxes and use a bit of it for infrastructure. Some of the property taxes go into the general fund, and then the general fund does the property tax. It's these accounting, uh, hurdles that they do, but it is generally sold as property taxes in the United States is for education. That's how it's sold. That's how it's promoted, and that's the mechanism, right? So whenever they do their accounting methods and all those things, then they make some adjustments to that. So by and large, when we say that property taxes is education, that is a generally true statement. Okay, they do the schools do get a small amount, up to like 10% of their funding from the federal government, and that's pretty much covers what you need to know for this discussion.
What was that little section you told me on? What was it that about very interesting? Only ask questions.
Well, the thing is um, property tax has an incredible staying power. Okay, it has demonstrated its resiliency during economic downturns. Blah blah blah. Sales tax is another thing, and an income tax in certain states. It's proven to be more volatile.
Give a little bit for people who don't know what is sales tax.
Oh well, sales tax. A lot of it just goes in the general fund, but they also, but police and fire and roads and all this other stuff is funded through sales tax.
All right, so it's not property tax like some people might confuse.
Right. But the other thing is a lot of times large building projects, roads, and that sort of thing are not actually funded by um, taxes at all. They actually do a bond, and they do a municipal bond, and that's how they pay for the road. And so the taxes go to pay the interest on the municipal.
It looks like it's a messy thing.
Yes.
And this is why we are so easily kept in the dark of it all. And it's how easy it is that the bureaucracy can pull even more tax from it, and how it increases, and we still are ignorant as to where it all goes. How about let's for people who don't know, how about our income?
Well, I wasn't going to get to there, but
let me a little bit.
Well, no, I want to stick on the property tax, okay, because
go right ahead.
It has a staying power, and it's less volatile, which is true. But what it also does is captures people into their homes.
Oh yes, that's a big one. I mean, nobody wants to lose their home, right?
That's right. And so even if you pay off your home, property tax is a perpetual tax, and you never finish paying for it. Even if you don't have any children, you pay property tax. And so if say, okay, you finally pay off your 30-year mortgage, 15-year or whatever, you're still going to pay property tax at the end of the year or every month. Okay? Or they will put a tax lien on your home, and if you don't pay the tax lien, that property will be seized and sold at auction to pay the tax.
Wow, so they got a really good hold.
Yes, and that's how they control us. Now, if we were to homeschool hang on, I gotta go here.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we were to homeschool en masse, it removes those fangs from the government. Exactly. In other words, it's like you don't have a reason anymore to tax our property.
No justification.
You don't have any justification.
You don't have that hold on us.
Right. And therefore, if that property tax was gone, once you pay off your home, that's yours. You don't pay anything. It's like having an old car in the driveway that you still use. You don't pay anything for it to own it. Right. Okay? I mean, you have to pay for the tags and stuff, but that's another story.
It's kind of like they're threatening us. It's like you pay us to have the services, or you'll pay for it, right?
It's another mafia shakedown, is what it is.
Oh.
Okay, so
Anyway, this is why we get so passionate about that. You don't really realize how bad this deal really is.
that's right.
They
Now let's say, okay, all right, for devil's advocate here. Well, we have to have a little bit, right?
oh
People are afraid to let go of their gilded cages, right?
Yes.
Well, we have to have a little
part of the indoctrination process, right?
Exactly. I'm afraid to be on my own. But okay, I tell you what. Let's do it like this. Property tax is the sales tax you pay when you purchase your home. Okay, and then once you like you go buy a toaster, you pay $3.95 for tax on your toaster.
Mm-hmm.
You don't keep paying $3.95 a month
Right.
to own your toaster. Okay, so let's make it a sales tax on your house, right? Throw it into the mortgage, just like when you go buy a car, right? From a dealership, you pay the sales tax, right? Right. So there you go. So once you pay off their house, it's yours.
It's really evident how we've been scammed for so long to the system.
And even if you don't pay off you're still paying on your house, right? If the if the property tax is now sales tax, right? The government still gets some money and they can do whatever they want to. You're still homeschooling, but the government no longer has those claws into your property to take it away.
Correct.
If there's a reversal of fortune. That home is yours.
As it should be.
That's right. That farm is yours. That grandmother on fixed income, her home is hers, right?
How many people have lost their homes because of this? Because we went through a little financial crisis with this situation. A lot of people most likely lost their homes.
A lot of people probably did.
And we actually are having some sort of what's that called?
Financial crisis.
Well, what's the other term they use on movies? Dystopic. No, what does it call it?
They go through bankruptcy, right?
No, but I'm talking about that. Never mind. It'll come to me. But it's not something that just came up. It's just like I said, the situation we're in just revealed things. It made it more visible for people who were not really in tune with these. By being at home, not working, you're starting to see things that you weren't able to see before.
But the biggest thing is that homeschooling allows us an avenue to take away that control, that power the government has over the place where we sleep. Right?
Our shelter. One of our basic physical needs, right?
That's right, according to Maslow.
So here we go with so that's property taxes. It was a big one, okay? And we'll get back into it. We'll get back into it in when we're almost when we wrap this podcast up. But I want to go into the next thing, which is wages. What it could do to wages, because there's a lot of people in the work. When you have a lot of people in the workforce, there's no way for wages to go up.
There's a glut of talent out there.
So
and we need people. We need smart people educating our kids.
We do. So if we do need smart people educating our kids. So if you're saying, "Oh, I gotta work, I gotta use my mental talent or whatever," it's like, what better way to use it on your future generation who's carrying your last name and your DNA and everything, right?
Your legacy.
Your legacy, exactly.
So basically what's happening in the current system is you can't build a legacy. You can't build values, family values that pass down from generation to generation. Every generation is now fractured into little bitty bits, and they have to rebuild every single time it's recreated.
And you're isolated. You don't have a way to have your own community that can give you support, right?
That's right.
You don't have that because you're so busy working.
This is a a fractionalization of culture.
It is. So wages go up with less people in the workforce. So that's how the economy gets better. Okay, and because of that, it will open opportunities to address other areas that also need to be changed.
So when couples, families decide that they're going to homeschool in mass, a lot of people are going to come out of the workforce, and it's going to create a vacuum. And
Yeah.
and people are going and companies are going to need people, and so they're going to have to compete to get people into their company, and their wages are going to go up. A glut of workforce drives down wages.
So we just proved in many ways how the financial aspects and our burdens will actually improve.
That's
So
right.
that way the mother and father don't have to be working anymore.
That's right.
You can actually have one person go to work and the other parent homeschool the children to follow their own values and so on.
There's also some really good tax benefits that I'm not going to get into because I'm not a tax expert, but from what we've experienced, uh, being a single earner household rather than a two earner household, our tax burden is out now less.
Right. Because the more
Okay,
you make, the more taxes are pulled out.
payroll taxes and stuff like this.
It's like we've been indoctrinated to think that we should both work. It's just, again, part of the indoctrination process that they made you think that, and these are the services.
Hmm.
Okay, they made us to think that this is how it should be,
Right.
and it shouldn't be. So, what freedom is being independent in a way that you don't require to use infrastructures provided by the state. You are self-reliant and in full control of your and your family's lives. That means food, shelter, defense, knowledge, skills, and values. Okay, to be free means that you are willing to part ways from the commodities and luxuries to face the challenges and struggles of your family's survival head on. Okay? The reason I'm saying that is that we have one infrastructure, schools, which are down. In other words, they're not operating. And therefore, it is a much easier fight to win what we were saying for the economic aspects, how we're going to benefit as a society.
Well, once the schools go back online, people will fall asleep again. Right now, they're upset.
They're gonna fall asleep again because it's a drug. You get a service that is so convenient for you, right?
Right.
Because you've been indoctrinated to believe that how we need to vicious cycle. It's addictive. How we've been fooled for years. So we need to fight that. We cannot let that to come back online to in full operation if we can gain something tangible that already belongs to us in the first place.
Right.
Okay, we disconnect from that infrastructure and we tell them that we don't need that infrastructure because our families will benefit from homeschooling because of the values and skills that they will learn, and also because economically it will benefit much, much more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's how we become stronger families, stronger communities. So the thing is, we have all these groups and people now who want to protest to open the schools back up, and or to even to protest to say, hey, we don't, let's open the schools, but let's not have the masks and the shields and all that stuff. So the things that we need to think about is, okay, we need freedom and rights. At what cost? That's what we need to think about. And what is the attempt of negotiation with an overly powerful government really gonna lead to? Are we really gonna gain anything?
Well, we know for a fact that the product government schools put out, right? Their quality of education, the one that the quality of education that people are fighting for to get back into, can't educate our children. Compared to other countries in the world, we kind of suck.
There's this cognitive dissonance. It's like we complain about how these systems failed, but yet we're first to to go back into it.
That's right.
It's a serious cognitive dissonance.
I mean, I started getting active politically back in the 80s. Okay. And they were talking about school reform then. In fact, these voucher systems that they're trying to push.
Oh, yes, discuss those, please.
Okay.
This is great.
Okay. The thing is the way schools are funded is by people in that particular zip code, and the tax money that's from that zip code, it goes to the schools within that zip code.
Okay, for people who don't know, zip code is like a certain region, certain number designated to a certain area in your region. Go ahead.
Sure. And again, I'm talking in generalities. If there's some specific things, I'm not talking about this. I'm trying to juxtapose how it's funded now versus how the vouchers were going to be funded. Okay, and it was touted by Newt Gingrich back in the 104th Congress back in 1995 when the Republicans got control of both the House and the since Democratic control for a very long time. Okay, so schools were funded by zip code, and you had to go to the school in your zip code. Well, one person on the edge of a zip code, there's a school like right next to them. So I was like, well, why can't I go to this middle school? Send my kids to this middle school, and so that person wanted school choice. They wanted to send their kid to the close school rather than having to go across town 30 minutes within the same zip code to go to the middle school over there or be bused, right? Why can't it's just right across the street. So that's kind of was the main impetus for that. Also, it's like, well, I want to take my kid out of this underperforming school, or maybe according in 1995, if the if the school had high crime, blah blah blah, they wanted their children out of that. Okay, and so that's where the voucher system was kind of birthed. So basically, what that does is say, instead of giving the money to zip code, the school system, we're going to give the money to the school system, but it's based upon the student rather than the zip code. Okay,
so the same scam.
So it's the same system.
Same scam.
It's not zip code. It's actually the student. Okay, so it actually is more beneficial to the government.
As it always is, right?
And it always is. The government will happily give you, and not only will they give you a voucher, you're going to be happy with it. You're going to think that that's freedom.
I know. They're going to take very good care of themselves and trick you into that it's.
That's right. It doesn't change. It doesn't change for the government. They get their money, and they get more because now there's a new system and it has to be funded.
So the more reason is to not use actually have that infrastructure inoperable. And right now it's inoperable. And so the way to win it is to tell the government we don't need that infrastructure.
That's right.
And because they need to, in order for them to operate it, they need to put it back online, right? With electricity, for air conditioning, lighting, and all these things. So they need that money to run it, and we need to say, look, we don't need that system.
That's right. We have our own system. Thank you very much.
We'll figure out a different way.
That's right.
To educate, to raise our children.
And the thing is, the biggest thing is there are proponents who are taking this homeschooling movement from the pandemic, homeschooling movement, and trying to shoehorn in vouchers. Okay? And some people are buying it
because they're ignorant. And so we need to raise awareness. That's why we're doing this podcast.
they're not bad people, but they're ignorant of how the system works.
They're ignorant on how they're being tricked.
But don't be tricked. It's the same system. It's just a little different. And you have this illusion of control,
Yes.
but it's not real. Because what they still have in their claws is your domicile, your home.
And I'm glad that you used that word illusion, because that's what it comes down to, our freedom and rights. How much of that is really, and how much of it is actually.
That's right. Real freedom feels a little dangerous.
It actually is. And you actually have a higher risk because you're on your own. But the thing is, what we're telling you is...
Let me say it another way. Real freedom is responsibility.
It is responsibility.
It's growing up.
And what we're trying to say is the reason people, they're afraid because they think they're alone. And you're not alone. You have to now get in touch with other families who feel the same way, because the only way we can pull through is if we think as a community.
Well, yeah, a bit, because it's like, okay, there's it's not just about collectivism versus individuality. Okay, there's a section in there where you care about the individual, but you're part of a community, a federation.
So you respect the individualism, but you function as...
That's right.
That's the difference.
And the basis of that is not just the nuclear family, but the extended nuclear family. The grandmothers, the cousins, the aunts and uncles, those type of things. Those should all be part of the family legacy.
And it's the same needs that people have with a babysitter.
That's
right.
What
if you need to do something that is going to be very boring or not appropriate for your children to be there? Always families have troubles because they live far away from their relatives. They don't have close friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, who can I trust? So the thing is, you need the community for many reasons.
And the reason why it's been fractionated is because of this same thing. What everyone starts at zero, and then when you die, you're taxed to death. Okay, unless you have some sort of controls over your wealth after you die. Okay, so there is no legacy anymore.
Right.
There is no inheritance anymore. Okay, and that's the next thing to be fought to maintain legacy, is to get rid of the inheritance tax, because then you can't. You know how many stories that are out there about a man who's a farmer, who's at family farm for 90 years, right? Passed down from generation to generation, and now the next generation, the state comes in and says, inheritance tax, you got to pay us this value on this farm. And it's like, I don't have $1.3 million to pay taxes on this 90-acre farm. So they have to sell it. So it's the end of a multi-generational legacy that is gone because of government.
Yeah, and so the thing is, we can't be divided, because that makes us vulnerable and allows them to threaten us and take advantage of us and control us.
Right.
So we need to come together, and we need to get rid of the infrastructure, and we have to address the ones that are already not in operation, because that's how we win. How we fight that, and we gain those benefits, and then we can tackle them.
And this thing called homeschooling, who would have thought it could be actually the trigger to free people?
Well, it makes sense, because this is generational, and we need to start with our young.
Because the left attacked us in family, in education, and those are the avenues of attack, right? And so our counter is to take their power away. Right. They've infiltrated every level of the educational system, from daycares and kindergarten all the way up to the ivory towers of academia.
Yes.
Okay? It's all leftist garbage.
All gilded cages.
Yes.
So here we go. So homeschooling, will put a stop to that indoctrination process that has gotten us to this point. The path needs to be set for the next generation so that they don't have to go through this. They will fix and reset society.
Right.
So this is our chance. And one thing that we want to tell you is don't be afraid of our government. Families need to be strong and confident that what you're doing is freedom and it's the best thing for your family. You have to homeschool like a boss. If you don't know how, we can help you so that you can homeschool like a boss, okay? To become your own professional entity, to be fully knowledgeable and confident. In other words, to have good records and be on top of things. That's how you homeschool like a boss. If you're not confident, you don't know how, we can show you how. We can set you on the path so that you have that freedom.
Absolutely. And thank you for listening. We appreciate it. We also appreciate everyone who's donated so far to us. Thank you very much. It really helps us to continue our work. And please, if you want to talk to us one-on-one, schedule an appointment with us. We'll be glad to chat with you. And
Yep.
sign up for our newsletter too.
If you're on our Facebook page, DM us, private message us anytime with your questions and your needs. We'll be glad to help you. Or you can get on our website as well, homeschoollife.net, and subscribe to our newsletter. We're going to have our newsletter coming out in September.
Yes.
That'll be our first newsletter, so it's exciting for us to provide that.
Yes, and that website is homeschoollife.net.
And we have our YouTube channel, so you can follow us there as well.
Yes, just follow the links.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day, evening, or morning.
Yes.
Okay.
Wherever you are in the world.
Yes, bye-bye.
Bye.